Okay, be honest. How many New Year's resolutions have you made in your life? And be even more honest. How many of them survived past February? You know the drill. December 31st, you're standing there with a glass of something bubbly, absolutely certain that January 1st, new you emerges. Gym 5 days a week. No more scrolling at 1 a.m. Finally reading those books gathering dust on your shelf. You can practically see the highlight reel of your future self already, and then reality happens. By week 2, the gym motivation has evaporated. By week 3, you're back to scrolling at 1 a.m., except now there's added guilt attached to it. By February, the whole thing quietly dies, and you tell yourself, well, I guess I just don't have enough willpower. Here's the thing, though. That explanation is almost always wrong. And understanding why it's wrong might be the single most useful thing you learn this year. Let me tell you about a guy. We'll call him Marcus. As a kid, Marcus took part in one of those classic psychology experiments. Sit alone in a room with one marshmallow, and if you can wait 15 minutes without eating it, you get a second one. Marcus, being a completely normal 5-year-old, ate the marshmallow immediately, obviously. Years later, he found out the follow-up research. Kids who managed to wait tended to grow up more successful, on average, across basically every measurable life outcome. And Marcus spent a long time low-key blaming himself for that one marshmallow decision, like his childhood impulsiveness had permanently doomed him. Fast forward to adulthood. Marcus dropped out of a sport he was actually decent at because gaming felt better. He left college halfway through. Now he's running a business that's constantly on fire, and not the good kind of fire. He can never quite build systems that stick, can never quite get organized, and every December he watches everyone else post their smug year-in-review content, while his own year mostly consists of self-directed disappointment and a few extra pounds he'd rather not discuss. Sound uncomfortably familiar? Here's the good news. Marcus didn't have a willpower deficiency. He had a completely normal human brain reacting exactly the way brains are designed to react. And once he understood the actual mechanism behind it, everything changed. Not overnight, but genuinely. So let's actually break down what's going on, because just have more willpower is about as useful as telling someone with a broken leg to just walk normally. Part 1. What willpower actually is. Researchers have mapped this down to 3 specific regions in the prefrontal cortex. And once you understand them, willpower stops being some mystical trait you either have or don't. The first region handles the I will function. This is what pushes you through important but difficult tasks. Finishing the report you've been avoiding. Finally sending that email. Doing the boring, necessary thing instead of the easy thing. The second region is the I won't function. This is what stops you from acting on every single impulse the second it shows up. Not eating the entire bag of chips. Not spending 4 hours on short-form video when you meant to spend 15 minutes. The third region handles I want. Your ability to hold on to long-term goals and values while the rest of your brain is loudly demanding immediate gratification. This is the part that remembers why you're doing any of this in the first place, while everything else is screaming, eat this, buy that, watch one more. Here's the uncomfortable realization Marcus eventually had. His I won't function was basically non-existent. Every impulse won, every single time, without a fight. And the reason wasn't a character flaw, it was chemistry. Part 2. Why you're addicted to dopamine and don't even realize it. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter behind pleasure and motivation, and it comes in 2 very different flavors, even though they feel similar in the moment. There's expensive dopamine, the kind you earn by completing something genuinely difficult, finishing a book, closing a hard deal, actually following through on a workout you didn't want to do. This kind requires real effort, and crucially, the brain is stingy about handing it out. It doesn't love giving you motivation for rewards that are far off in the future, because your brain, fundamentally, wants satisfaction right now, not eventually. Then there's cheap dopamine, instant, effortless, available in unlimited quantities. Scrolling. Snacking. One more episode. zero effort required, and you can binge on it endlessly, which is exactly the problem. Because your brain will always take the free hit over the expensive one if you let it. Marcus was, by his own admission, a cheap dopamine addict. A brutal day. 5 deals falling through, an angry client, a scary letter from the tax office. And by night, he'd be face-deep in fast food with a controller in hand for 4 straight hours. Not because he was lazy or weak, because his brain was in genuine distress and reaching for the fastest available relief, the same way anyone's would. Part 3. Why the fix isn't more discipline, it's balance. Here's the actual insight that changed things for Marcus, and it's counterintuitive. The craving for cheap dopamine almost always shows up as a direct response to unhealthy levels of stress. You don't actually crave 4 hours of mindless scrolling because scrolling is inherently that great. You crave it because something else in your life is running you into the ground, and your brain is looking for the fastest available escape hatch. So the real fix isn't try harder to resist temptation. It's addressing why the temptation got so loud in the first place. This is where the classic life balance exercise actually earns its reputation, tired as it sounds. Grab a piece of paper, draw a circle, split it into slices: career, health, relationships, finances, personal growth, fun, whatever categories matter to you, and honestly rate how satisfied you are in each one right now. Marcus did this, and his circle was, in his own words, basically a bicycle wheel with 3 spokes missing. Career, overloaded and chaotic. Health, non-existent. Fun, only in the cheap, numbing variety. No wonder cheap dopamine had a monopoly on his evenings. Nothing else in his life was actually generating any of the expensive kind. The lesson here isn't eliminate all pleasure and become a monk. You're allowed to enjoy gaming or whatever your version of cheap dopamine is. That's not the enemy. The problem is when it becomes the only source of relief in an otherwise imbalanced life. Because then you're not really choosing it, you're just defaulting to it out of exhaustion. Also, and this part matters, you cannot run on willpower alone indefinitely. The same way you can't skip rest days at the gym and expect your muscles to keep growing. Willpower needs actual resources behind it: rest, recovery, and a life that isn't constantly running on empty. Push yourself past that limit repeatedly, and you won't build discipline. You'll just burn out and collapse back into whatever coping mechanism is easiest to reach. Marcus actually did the work here. He started addressing the imbalance directly instead of just gritting his teeth harder. He built in actual rest. He started managing his stress instead of just absorbing it and self-medicating with junk food and gaming marathons every night. And a strange thing happened. The late-night binge sessions started losing their pull. Not because he was forcing himself to resist, but because he genuinely didn't need them as much anymore. His actual life started generating enough of its own satisfaction that the cheap stuff stopped being the only option on the table. He also had a realization worth mentioning. For years, he'd fantasized about some future version of success. A big house somewhere fancy, the kind of place where he'd finally relax and get his life together. Once he actually built some balance into his current life, that fantasy quietly lost its urgency. He wasn't chasing some future rescue anymore, because he'd stopped needing rescuing in the present. So here's what this actually means for you, practically, starting today. First, stop treating your lack of follow-through as a moral failing. It's not a character defect. It's a completely predictable response to an overloaded, imbalanced nervous system reaching for the fastest relief available. Beating yourself up over it doesn't fix anything. It just adds another layer of stress on top of the stress that caused the problem in the first place. Second, actually map out where your life is lopsided. You don't need a perfectly balanced wheel. Nobody has that. But if entire categories of your life are completely empty while one category is completely overloaded, that imbalance is very likely fueling whatever willpower problem you think you have. Third, build in real recovery, deliberately, not as an afterthought. Rest isn't the reward you get after discipline. It's the fuel that makes discipline possible in the first place. skip it. And you're not being tough. You're just setting yourself up for a bigger collapse later. Fourth, notice when you're chasing cheap dopamine specifically because something else is stressing you out, versus just genuinely enjoying downtime. Those are different things, and only one of them is actually a warning sign worth paying attention to. And fifth, this one's easy to overlook. Stop assuming some future version of your life will magically fix your current one. The mansion, the promotion, the someday I'll finally relax fantasy. None of that automatically solves an imbalance that exists right now. Fix the balance in the life you're actually living today, and you might find you need that future rescue a lot less than you thought. You don't need a personality transplant. You don't need to become someone who was born with monk-like self-control. You need your actual life to stop running on empty long enough for your brain to stop begging for the nearest available escape hatch. Fix that, and the discipline you thought you were missing tends to show up almost on its own.